Hi, this is Sanjeev and welcome back to my YouTube channel Fun with Sanjeev. In the last lesson, that is the lesson number 1, we had briefly talked about the fundamentals of sound, which I covered what is sound, how it is produced, how it travels in medium, the speed of sound, the wavelength, the frequency, the amplitude, and that's where we stopped actually, the amplitude. Because we are today going to learn something which is something which is very related to the amplitude, that is the loudness. So amplitude we measured in the decibels. Remember? So what is loudness is what we are going to learn today. So loudness is. Let me go to this chapter. Yeah. Loudness is the perceptual response to the physical property of intensity perceived by our ears. Property, that is physical property. So let's say of intensity, let's say I'm going to produce frequencies all from 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz at an amplitude of 80 decibels. So these blue bars over here represents 80 decibels of all the frequencies equally. But what the black bars are showing is how our ears respond to those frequencies, which are already at the same amplitude levels. So the intensity of sound may be factored by the ear's sensitivity to the frequencies that it receives. So this curve shows that the lower the frequency, you see these black bars, 20 Hertz, 30 Hertz, 40, 50, 16, all these, the black bars are quite at low levels, which means that our ears are not sensitive to those frequencies. We are not able to hear it as good as these chunk of frequencies which are at the mid frequencies, like 1 kilohertz to 5 kilohertz. The loudness is pretty good. We are able to hear it pretty well there. But the loudness at the higher frequencies and the lower frequencies are not that good. So this has been charted by a person called the Fletcher and Munson in the year 1933, wherein he called a lot of volunteers and he asked them to sit in a acoustically treated room and where there were speakers, and a range of frequencies were swept between 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And these people were asked their opinion as to how they heard these frequencies, and they were asked to respond to how they received those frequencies. So most of the people had the same kind of response. They said, oh no, we are not able to hear the low frequencies that good as the mid frequencies. High frequencies are not so bad, but then low frequencies are not well heard. All the people had told the same thing. All the volunteers told the same thing, which means clearly that our ears are not that responsive to the low frequencies compared to the mid frequencies and the higher frequencies. This was charted over here. So this blue line that shows over here is the loudness, equal loudness. How loud you're hearing over here is the same loudness you're hearing over here for this particular frequency, the same loudness you're going to hear for this particular frequency. This is known as the equal loudness. You see that it is actually pushed up at the lower frequency to get the same loudness. What is pushed up? The low frequency has been pushed up or amplified to get the same loudness. Amplified from this point over here, which is over here, all the way up to 50 decibels. In this case, in this particular chart, has been brought up 50 decibels to get the same loudness as you would have got at around, say, 4 kilohertz to 3 kilohertz range. Which means that at the same amplitude, over here at the same loudness, we are actually giving a very less amplification, decibel levels, which means that this portion of our ears are extremely sensitive. This portion of the frequency, this portion of the frequency is very sensitive to our ears, and we receive them much better than the lower frequencies and the higher frequencies. Okay, I hope this is clear. We go to the next. So, since we are talking about how our ears perceive the sound, the loudness, we are not talking about the dB at the ear, inside the ear. We're talking about, because dB is, if I say 80 dB for all the frequency, it's 80 for all the frequencies. But if I say loudness, it won't be the same for all the frequencies. So we are talking about our ear. So let's understand a little about how our ear functions. How does our ear function? What are the main three parts of our ears? One is the outer ear, then we have the middle ear, and then we have the much inside the inner ear. So what does the outer ear contain? It contains a pinna. What does it do? It collects the acoustic energy and directs it into the tube that takes it to the tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane is nothing but the eardrum. So funnels it into the ear canal and takes it into the eardrum. Eardrum is like a membrane. It's like a diaphragm of a microphone. So when you talk into the microphone, the diaphragm vibrates, and thereby it converts that acoustic energy into electrical energy that the electronics understand. Similarly, our brain do not understand what acoustic energy is. So acoustic energy has to be converted into one form of energy that our brain understands. And these are known as electrical impulses. So electrical impulses. So it's not the same as the acoustic energy. So the entire ear is responsible for this conversion. Okay. So this tympanic membrane or the eardrum is the boundary from the outer world to the inner world, which is inside. That section, we call it as the outer ear. Then we go to the middle ear. So the middle ear has three tiny bones. One is the malleus, the hammer, the incus, and the stapes. So these are the three tiny bones responsible to transfer this energy from the tympanic membrane into the inner ear. Okay. So what these three bones does, there is a kind of movement which is sympathetic to the eardrum, and this movement actually increases the force of vibration around 20 to 30 times that of the tympanic membrane. So we could say that this middle ear acts as an amplification system, and these three bones put together, we call it as the ossicles. Now we go to the inner ear. So you see that in the inner ear, we have a snail shell kind of structure, which is called the cochlea. This is the area where the mechanical sound energy is converted to electrical impulses. So this is called a transducer. Just like a microphone, we call it as a transducer that converts the acoustic energy coming into the microphone, and inside the microphone, it is converted to electrical energy, and it goes through the wire. So here the same thing happens. The acoustic energy hits the eardrum, which is a membrane, and that is taken into the cochlea. In the cochlea, the conversion happens. So what is happening inside the inner ear? So when you go into this cochlea structure, there is a base of the cochlea and it winds up the way to the apex of the cochlea. So the entire inner structure is filled with fluid. And when the sound waves enter this structure, this fluid also starts to vibrate. Okay? Thereby vibrating very minute hair cells that are present in the cochlea. Very minute, delicate hair cells are lined up here in the cochlea. When the sound waves enter the cochlea, the liquid gets disturbed and thereby disturbing also the hair cells. These hair cells are responsible for the conversion of this mechanical energy, that is a fluid energy moving the hair cells, into electrical impulses, which is connected to the neuron, and that takes the signal to the central auditory system. So, you also look here that the base of the cochlea is responsible for all the high frequencies and thereby slowly winding up its way to the apex of the cochlea, which is responsible for the low frequencies. So why is this important? I'm telling you. You remember I told last time that the response of the ears, that is frequency response of the ears, we talked, is from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And at the same time, I also told that in reality, that's not the case. So why in reality that's not the case is because we grew up in an environment which is filled with machinery noises, industrial noises, blasting loudspeakers, discotheques, blaring horns, air horns, the traffic, the crackers of the Diwali. With a lot of style, you hold the bomb in your hand and then extend your arm and then try to burst it. What happens when the bomb bursts at such a vicinity to your ears? It produces extremely high decibels of sound. Extremely high, which can even go to around 130 decibels. And that's really going to damage your ears. What do you mean by damage the ears? When I talk about the cochlea, the initial stage of the cochlea takes the higher frequencies, and that takes the highest impact of these vibrations. So when it takes that impact, the hair cells responsible for those high frequency ranges just collapse and die. That's the reason you get a key sound when you burst a cracker or when you are exposed to sudden high impulsive sound. Even a slap, for example, on your ears is very dangerous. Don't ever do that to anybody. That can damage your ears. And this damage, when I'm talking about the damage of these hair cells, these damages are permanent. And you don't even realize that you're doing all this nonsense, actually. We sound engineers have been exposed to extremely high sound levels in the recording studios. I've been working with big organizations where we do the recording and mixing of songs. And we are exposed to extremely high levels of sounds unknowingly that it's going to spoil our ears. Because the music directors and producers says, oh, we want it really loud. We want the punch. We want that, all those things. And we used to say, okay, you want it, then take it. But they listen to it for that small period of time. They walk away. What about you as sound engineers? You're exposing yourself to extremely high levels of signals which will permanently damage your ears. So normally the frequency response of the ears is 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. But what is the reality? The reality is that your frequency response gets limited not beyond 16 kilohertz. One is the age. Of course, we are getting older. That is normal. But I'm talking about youngsters who have been exposed to headphone loud music or discotheque or exposed to high levels of noisy machineries, and that to continuous exposure, not the small impulsive exposure. What happens is these are the hair cells intact, and these are the hair cells completely damaged. And remember, once the hair cells get damaged, it's irreparable. You cannot replace these organs. Unlike you go to the doctor and say, I want to just replace my kidney. No, no, no. Ear and its ear organs, inner ear cannot be replaced. So be extremely careful with all these things. All right. Good luck. So thanks for watching once again. Please like, and if you have not subscribed yet, please do right away. Bye bye. Have a nice day.